On a chilly morning at St. Mary's Hospital, the bustling atmosphere of the start of the week was evident through the hurried footsteps of nurses and doctors. The steady beeping of machines blended with the anxious whispers of patients and their families. This was a place where life and hope were given every day, but also where pressure and exhaustion always lingered. Amid the rhythm of life, a modest man walked in through the main entrance. He carried neither the aura of authority nor the polished appearance typically associated with important figures. Dressed in a simple gray shirt, jeans, and a red hat, he quietly blended into the busy backdrop of the hospital. Little did anyone know, this unassuming presence would usher in a story that would change everything. A story that would touch the hearts of everyone there. Sometimes, it is the simplest things that lead to the greatest surprises. And today, we will explore a heartwarming journey of transformation, profound lessons in compassion, and the power of empathy. This is not just the story of one individual, but an inspiring journey you won't want to miss. Let's step into this story together. In the pale morning light, St. Mary's Hospital bustled with its usual activity. The hurried footsteps of nurses, the steady beeping of machines, and the anxious whispers of patients intertwined, creating an unending rhythm. This was a place where life was given, yet tension was ever present. Amid this space, Clara Anderson emerged. Her high heels clicked sharply with each step, a clipboard firmly in hand, making her a symbol of control. Every wary eye followed her, the strict and unapproachable manager. But then, Clara's footsteps came to a halt as her eyes caught sight of a stranger entering through the main doors. Wearing a simple gray shirt, jeans, and a red cap with the words MAGA emblazoned on it, he stood in stark contrast to the hospital's solemn decorum. His quiet presence, unnoticed by most, would soon mark the beginning of a story that would change everything. The man walked with a calm, unhurried demeanor, a faint smile on his face, as if completely unaware of the scrutinizing gaze fixed upon him. He approached the reception desk without haste, exuding an air of ease and composure, showing no signs of causing any disturbance. Yet to Clara, this image registered as a potential threat. In her mind, a clear question arose. Who is this man? And why is he here? With determined strides, Clara approached him. Her firm voice pierced through the quiet atmosphere, commanding attention. What do you need here? This is a hospital, not a place for personal statements. The man turned to her, meeting her sharp gaze with steady eyes. He responded softly, his tone even. I didn't come here to cause trouble. I have my reasons, but I believe there's no need to disturb anyone. His calm response unsettled Clara further. She tightened her grip on the clipboard in her hand, striving to maintain her composure. This is a hospital, not a place where you can come and go as you please. If you don't have a valid reason to be here, I'll have to call security. The man nodded without resistance, his demeanor unchanged. But before turning away, he left her with a statement that made her pause. Sometimes, what you see isn't the whole truth. As he walked away, his composed figure seemed to leave a lingering question in Clara's mind. She stood still, her eyes following him with an indescribable feeling. It wasn't the usual sense of satisfaction she experienced when asserting her authority, but rather a creeping unease, as if she had just let something important slip through her grasp. The morning light streamed through the bright white hallways of St. Mary's Hospital, where the hurried steps of healthcare workers carried the pulse of urgency. Clara Anderson, the hospital's manager, moved through the corridors with an air of confidence, her every step radiating authority. The rhythmic clicking of her high heels on the polished floor served as a subtle reminder to everyone that she embodied order and control. At 42, Clara took great pride in her professionalism. Her sharp eyes swept over every corner, and the clipboard in her hand was the tool that kept everything within her grasp. Yet behind that commanding exterior was a woman so accustomed to the pressures of her role that she had forgotten how to truly listen and feel. Suddenly, her steps halted as her gaze fell upon an unfamiliar sight. A stranger had just entered through the main doors, his casual appearance starkly out of place in the solemn atmosphere of the hospital. He wore a gray shirt, simple jeans, and most notably, a red cap bearing the words, MAGA, a symbol that immediately unsettled Clara. A wave of discomfort and unease rose within her. The man showed no urgency, nor did he seem to notice or care about the curious glances cast his way. He walked slowly toward the reception desk, a faint smile on his face, as if offering a silent greeting. To Clara, however, this air of ease felt like an unspoken challenge. She took a deep breath, summoning her characteristic firmness. Striding toward him, her heels striking the floor with purpose, she addressed him in a cold, decisive tone. "Sir, what do you need here? This is a hospital, not a place for conspicuous personal statements." The man turned to face her, his eyes calm and inscrutable. "I haven't come here to cause trouble," he said, his voice composed yet steady. "I have something to take care of, and I assure you, I won't disturb anyone." Clara frowned, her brow furrowing slightly. "I don't know what you think you're doing here, but I won't allow this to disrupt this space. If you don't have a valid reason, I will have to ask you to leave." The man nodded slightly, offering no resistance, but before turning away, he left behind a remark that caused Clara to pause. "Don't let appearances deceive you." As his figure faded toward the door, his words lingered in Clara's mind. A strange feeling, both unsettling and confusing, rose within her. Though she had always been confident in her control, Clara found herself questioning, who was this man? And why did his presence unsettle her in a way she couldn't quite explain? The sharp sound of Clara's high heels echoed across the tiled floor, breaking the tense silence at the reception desk. Curious glances from staff and patients began to gather around her, but Clara paid them no mind. Her focus remained entirely on the man before her. His calm demeanor only added to her irritation. In his simple attire and the striking red hat, he stood in complete contrast to the solemn, orderly atmosphere Clara worked so hard to uphold. "What do you need here?" Clara demanded coldly, her voice sharp with authority. "This is a hospital, not a place for personal statements." The man turned back to look at her, a faint smile flickering across his face. "I'm not here to cause trouble," he said, his voice unsettlingly calm. "I just have something to take care of, and I'll leave immediately if I feel unwelcome." His composure did nothing to pacify Clara. On the contrary, she felt challenged. "This is a hospital." She emphasized each word, her eyes locking onto his as if to assert control. "If you don't have a valid reason to be here, I'll call security immediately." The man didn't react, standing there with an almost unnerving tranquility. "Sometimes what you see isn't the whole truth," he replied, his voice soft, yet carrying a weight that Clara couldn't ignore. Clara tightened her grip on her clipboard, her lips pressed into a thin line, her eyes fixed on him as he turned and walked away. She stood there, her heels frozen on the floor. But inside, a wave of unease rippled through her. This wasn't the first time she had dealt with someone uncooperative. But this man, his quiet confidence, his cryptic words, made her feel as though she didn't fully control the situation. "Who does he think he is?" Clara muttered under her breath, frustration rising within her like a brewing storm. But instead of pursuing him, she turned on her heels, her shoulders squared, forcing herself to maintain the aura of authority she prided herself on. From afar, a young staff member whispered to her colleague, "That's Elon Musk. Can you believe it? He's the new owner of the hospital." But the hushed words didn't reach Clara, who was still lost in her swirling thoughts. That first confrontation, which seemed like Clara's victory, left her with an unshakable sense of unease, as though a much larger storm was looming on the horizon. The atmosphere in St. Mary's Hospital's large conference room was so heavy that it seemed to drain the air of sound. Clara Anderson entered, her sharp gaze sweeping over the crowded room. This wasn't an ordinary meeting. Every key figure in the hospital was present. Yet, what unsettled Clara the most was the presence of the man she had confronted. He sat at the center of the room, no longer wearing his familiar red cap, but his calm demeanor remained unchanged. Elon Musk stood up, his neatly tailored blazer emphasizing his commanding presence. Beside him stood Mr. Andrews, the hospital's chief financial officer, who looked noticeably uneasy as Clara entered. "Please, have a seat, Mrs. Anderson," Elon said, his deep, steady voice carrying a weight that silenced the entire room. A wave of unease crept into Clara's chest, but she quickly regained her composure. She sat down, her hands gripping the arms of her chair so tightly that her knuckles turned white. "What is the meaning of this? Why are you holding a meeting like this?" she asked, striving to maintain her usual sharp tone. Elon looked at her, his calm eyes seemingly piercing through to every emotion Clara was trying to hide. After a few moments of silence, he spoke, each word delivered steadily, like tolling bells of clarity. "I believe it's time we address a few matters, not just about me, but also about how this hospital operates." Clara's heartbeat quickened, though she fought to mask her unease. "And who exactly are you to think you have the right to do this?" she asked, her cold gaze fixed on him, though her voice now betrayed a hint of wavering confidence. Elon stepped closer to the conference table, his gaze unwavering as it locked onto Clara. "I am the one responsible for everything here," he said, his voice steady but powerful enough to silence the entire room. "I am the new owner of St. Mary's Hospital." His words hit Clara like a bolt of lightning. The room fell utterly silent. No one dared to move or speak. Clara felt as though her entire world was collapsing around her. Her heart pounded in her chest, and her hands, once clenched tightly, fell limp at her sides. Every eye in the room turned toward her, not in judgment, but in anticipation, waiting to see how the once dominant symbol of authority would react. "I've observed the way you lead," Elon continued, his tone calm but carrying an unsettling weight. "And I've come to realize there are things that need to change, not just in the system, but in the way we treat people." Clara swallowed hard, her throat dry. The words she often wielded so confidently as weapons of control seemed to desert her entirely. In her mind, a single relentless question echoed. What have I done? Where did I go wrong? Elon stepped even closer, his gaze softening slightly. I'm not here to assign blame or humiliate you, Clara, he said, his voice firm yet compassionate. I'm here because I believe we can do better, if we're willing to change. Those words felt like a direct blow to Clara's pride. But instead of feeling insulted, she recognized them as a sincere reminder, not meant to tear her down, but to help her rebuild. In that moment, Clara understood that power was no longer hers to wield, but a new opportunity to do the right thing was now within reach. In the days following the meeting with Elon Musk, Clara Anderson could feel the shift in the hospital's atmosphere. The staff who once bowed their heads in deference to her authority now exchanged quiet glances and murmurs as she passed. Though she maintained her outwardly composed and stern demeanor, Clara couldn't ignore the creeping unease settling within her. That evening, she sat alone in her office, the soft glow of her desk lamp casting shadows over her clipboard, filled with tightly written notes. Clara replayed Elon's words in her mind. I'm not here to make you fail, but to help us do better. Those words no longer felt like criticism. They resonated as an invitation, a chance for her to change. The next morning, Clara resolved to do something she had never done before. Instead of remaining in her office, confined to paperwork and directives, she stepped out of her seat of power and walked the hospital's hallways. With each step, she noticed the surprised looks of the staff, unused to seeing her in this way, not as a director commanding from a distance, but as someone observing and listening. She stopped at the room of Ben Carter, a janitor who quietly went about his duties, often unnoticed. In the corner of the room sat his old neglected cleaning machine, its worn state a silent reminder of problems that had long been overlooked. Is this machine having issues? Clara asked, her tone softer than usual. Ben looked up, surprise evident on his face. Yes, Mrs. Anderson. I've reported it several times, but no one has addressed it. Clara nodded, pulled out her phone, and immediately called the maintenance department. We'll have it fixed today, she said, her gaze meeting Ben's with genuine sincerity. Ben looked at her, his eyes reflecting a newfound hope. Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. This really means a lot to us. Clara said nothing more, but her heart felt a small, unexpected warmth. It was just a small gesture, yet for the first time, she realized that even seemingly insignificant actions could hold great meaning for others. Gradually, Clara began to step into the lives of her staff, people she had previously regarded as mere parts of the operational machine. She initiated meetings to listen to their feedback, not as a form of oversight, but to genuinely understand their needs. In one such meeting, Laura Bennett, the head nurse, hesitantly stood up. Mrs. Anderson, Laura began, her voice trembling slightly. What we really need is to feel heard. Sometimes it feels like our concerns aren't taken seriously. Clara looked at Laura, her expression softer than before. Thank you, Laura. This is exactly what I needed to hear. I can't promise to fix everything immediately, but I do promise to start making changes today. Those words brought a hush over the room, but within Clara, something stirred. It wasn't a sudden transformation, but the planting of a small seed of trust and renewal. One day, as Clara walked past the pediatric ward, she noticed Lucas, a young patient with an innocent smile, sitting alone by the window. Something stirred within her, prompting her to step inside. Hello, Lucas, she said softly. How are you feeling today? Lucas turned to her, his wide eyes filled with both surprise and curiosity. Do you really remember me? He asked. People often promise, but then they forget. His words struck a chord in Clara, leaving her momentarily speechless. She took Lucas's small hand in hers, feeling a warmth spread through her heart. I haven't forgotten, and I never will. What's your favorite food? I'll bring it for you. Lucas's radiant smile lit up the room, and in that moment, Clara realized that the most profound changes didn't stem from policies or plans, but from connecting with people, truly seeing them, hearing them, and caring for them. These small, heartfelt actions began to transform the staff's perception of Clara. No longer did they see her as a distant manager, but as a genuine companion on their journey. And for Clara, each thank you, each smile she received reinforced her belief that she was finally on the right path. For the first time in years, Clara understood that leadership was not about control, but about service, not about authority, but about empathy. And her journey of transformation had only just begun. As the golden hues of sunset bathed the grounds of St. Mary's Hospital, the fading light streamed through the large glass windows, casting a warm and peaceful glow. Clara Anderson stood quietly in the main hallway, her gaze following the hurried steps of nurses, the gentle exchanges of smiles between staff and patients. She felt deeply that the hospital was not just a place of physical healing, but a sanctuary where hope was reborn. At the hospital's newly transformed center, the atmosphere was livelier than usual. Twinkling lights, fresh bouquets, and simple yet heartfelt table arrangements filled the room with warmth. Elon Musk had organized a small ceremony to honor everyone who had contributed to St. Mary's transformation, but most notably, to celebrate Clara's journey. Elon stepped onto the stage, his gentle smile and inspiring gaze captivating the audience. Today, we are not just celebrating this hospital, he began, but also honoring someone who bravely stepped out of their comfort zone, faced their mistakes, and became a tremendous source of inspiration. Clara Anderson, please join us. Applause erupted like a wave, sweeping through the room. Clara, though accustomed to standing before crowds, felt a slight tremble this time. Still, her feet carried her to the stage, each step a blend of gratitude and determination. Taking the microphone, her voice quivered slightly, yet it was filled with genuine emotion. "Thank you all," she began. "I used to think that being a leader meant keeping everything under control. But you've taught me that true leadership is about listening and sharing. This is not just a hospital. It's a second home for all of us." Applause rang out again. But what touched Clara most were the radiant smiles of her colleagues, the grateful expressions of patience, and the tiny wave from Lucas in the front row. In that moment, she realized her journey wasn't just about personal transformation. It was about igniting hope and inspiring change in those around her. After the ceremony, Clara returned to Lucas's room. The boy was sitting on his bed, holding the picture book she had given him previously. When he saw her, his face lit up, and he exclaimed with delight, "Miss Clara, you really came back! You didn't forget me!" Clara sat down beside Lucas, her gaze filled with tenderness. "I promised you, didn't I? And I'll never forget you, Lucas." Lucas beamed, his small hand clutching hers tightly. "You're the best person in this hospital," he said, his eyes shining with unwavering trust. Those words made Clara's throat tighten with emotion. She realized that her transformation had not only brought positive changes to the hospital, but had also helped her rediscover herself, a person of compassion and a renewed desire to serve. A few days later, Clara stood alongside Elon in the hospital courtyard. Watching the bustling medical staff diligently going about their work, she felt a profound sense of pride. Elon turned to her, his eyes reflecting admiration. "You've exceeded all my expectations, Clara. This isn't just about the hospital's transformation. It's the rebirth of a true leader." Clara smiled, her eyes gleaming with sincerity. "I couldn't have done this without you, Elon. You gave me the chance to become a better version of myself." Elon nodded, his smile subtle but meaningful. "Opportunities are only the beginning. You're the one who made the difference." Clara looked out at the horizon, where the last rays of sunlight were fading. Her heart brimmed with hope. This journey of change was not just a personal story, but a reminder that anyone can do the right thing if they have the courage to start. Life isn't always perfect, but what truly matters is our willingness to learn, change, and spread love. Clara Anderson's story is proof that with a sincere heart, miracles can happen. And you too can be an inspiration for change. And so, Clara Anderson's journey of transformation has come to an end, but its echoes will resonate forever. She not only learned to listen and empathize, but also inspired others to believe that with courage to change, miracles can unfold. If this story has touched your heart, please share it to spread the message of compassion and hope. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button to join us in discovering more inspiring stories. Thank you for listening and feeling. See you again in the next story.